Black who's going to go for it. Black for the 1 point to win the grand final for Halifax, and he's done it. Ben Black strike.
Hello, good evening, and welcome once again to the Fax of Life, your Halifax Rugby League podcast. My name's Rick Farrell, and I'm joined in the secret bunker of Halifax love by Halifax's answer to Alan Partridge. It is the one and only radio legend Mike Haigh. How are you, Mike?
Good evening.
Indeed. Good evening. We're going to get into some rugby league debate as always. If you do have any questions, you can always get in touch with us via Twitter and Facebook and on email as well. Search out the Fax of Life podcast. And without further ado, let's get into it. So, Mike, a couple of weeks since we've done a show. We've had 2 games since then, 2 defeats, sadly. Where do you want to begin? Should we start with York?
Yeah, might as well go in chronological order. I think when we did the podcast last time, we were looking forward to it. We thought we'd have a good chance, but sadly not. No.
It seems to have been the done thing at the minute, doesn't it? We seem to go there with a bit of optimism and a good following and come up a bit short. I think that the thing about the York game was, like I say, we took a big crowd over under the roof. We were able to make some real noise with the drum pumping and the fans getting really into it, and us as Celts, we had a good afternoon over in York getting ready for the game. But unfortunately, it seemed like the team, like the rest of us, were a bit slow out of the blocks, didn't it? I mean, 18-0 down in 10 minutes. We were always playing catch-up, weren't we?
So they have a recurring story every away game this year, from Widnes to Fev to York. We're just incredibly slow starters. The only comfort is that we do have that little bit of creativity there, and I don't think we should stop that, really. Like the first try of the game, the pass was forced out wide, and if Will Sharp catches it, it's 6-0. It's a great start, but then they intercept, go the length of the field, and then we're behind the 8 ball from there.
Well, we've always had success, haven't we, with our half-back pairing being Morell and Johnston. Ben White, to be fair to the lad, started the season really well, showed some form, got dropped when Johnston became fit again, because I think it's pretty apparent to everyone that Rich Marshall's ideal half-back pairing is Morell and Johnston. I think in that York game we really missed Jono. We didn't seem to have anyone in midfield that could break the line and make something happen. And when to be honest with you, I think we're a bit shocked by York's enthusiasm. I mean,
I was very, very impressed by how good York were. We've heard lots of reports about how good they are, how good they were last year, winning the League One title, beating Bradford along the way. We'll just mention that. But to make the step up to Championship, it is a big step up, and they have accounted themselves really, really well. But I think both fans and players were really surprised by how good they were, being led round by ex-player Conor Robinson.
Well, I was going to say, it seems that you say it's a sort of a recurring theme that we may start slowing these away games, but the recurring theme to me is we have a half-back in a Fax shirt. He does his bit, he goes to another club, and the first chance he gets to come back and play us, the Rippers are new behind every single time, you know. I don't know what it is about him. We seem to motivate the opposition a bit too much, don't you think?
The thing about Marshall is he does show loyalty to his players now. As we'll get further on in this podcast, one of the criticisms might be that he may be too loyal with some players. Now, Robinson, I don't think any Fax fan is denying his talent in that, but it was again recurring theme with players at Halifax, a jack of all trades. He just couldn't really master one position down. Was he a full back? Was he a hooker? Was he a half-back? Was he a loose forward? He's gone to York, not completely out of our hands. He's got work commitments, and York suited him better, and they've made him their 6, and he's flourished Player of the Year last year in League One, and he's tearing up the division this year. Yeah,
and it was a strange one to see Benny Cockayne as well, the older statesman, going straight through our defence like it weren't even there. That was probably the game breaker, wasn't it? Really, the fact that, you know, we tried to dig in, and the strangest thing is, you know, we're saying here that we started slowly. Straight from the kickoff, we got the ball back.
Yep, exactly.
So, you know, you would think that would set the tone, and we'd have kicked on. But like you say, Morell either holds that ball or gives a pass. It's a matter of inches, and Robinson goes for the interception. As we know in a Fax shirt, he did it a couple of times in a Fax shirt, so we know he's capable. But yeah, it was a disappointing performance, and you know, we managed to build back into the game, didn't we? And give ourselves a chance to get a bit
as we have done most times this year, like at Widnes and Fev, we got back into the game. But it's those slight it's those slight inches and millimetres that make all the difference, and it's just interceptions that are killing us. For interceptions at Fev, turned the tide. Interception at York, it's a shame really, and I think for the first time this year it kind of called Marshall's selection into question really, because there were quite a few selections which fans didn't particularly like, and one of which is the much maligned dual registration that we have, and he decided to bring back Big Will Marv, which he played all last year and a fantastic player for us last year, but to see the likes of Will Colcott actually on the terraces watching us, and he's played this year and done nothing really wrong, to bring in a cast lad at the Stone, I don't understand that at all really.
It's a strange one. I just want to touch back on you said about the fact that we've had those interceptions in a few games. The one thing that those interceptions do is they just kill. Not only do they kill the momentum that we're building, but there's such a double blow that you were attacking and trying to build your own pressure, and then all of a sudden you're up the other end of the field. And
12-point turnaround, didn't
it? Massively. And to have two of those in one game, and I mean I know there was only one in the York game, but to have a couple of those a game, and you're trying your heart out, and you get into your points of attack, and then for someone to intercept, and it's so deflating, isn't it? I think you could see that on the players' faces. That obviously the talk during the week was that we start well and try, and that's where we've always had our success in recent years. We get a bit of a start. I seem to remember a game against Lee a few years ago when they were clear favourites for the league, where we got a 20-point start.
Oh, of course,
and then we let our defence dig in. That's the next point I want to come on to. What the hell has happened to our defence
and discipline? The thing about the success under Richard Marshall has been our defence. If you compare with other coaches, our big plus under Calland was our attack. Don't matter if they scored 5 tries, we'll score 6, 7 or 8. Marshall's success with Halifax is that you'll have to get through us, and it was bodies on the line, and just a hard nut to crack with us really. As you mentioned before, 47-year-old Cocaine ghosting his way through the defence. It was just really sorry sight.
I think it's pretty apparent from that game as well that there were some players that weren't quite right physically.
No,
I think you mentioned about some questionable team selection. The one for me was putting an already known injured halfback in the squad, when to sort of, I think it's sort of been interpreted as like a double bluff type of thing. We'll put him in and then they do all their work during the week to think they're going to play Johnston, and then they face somebody else and it might throw them off. But for me, all you're doing is cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Exactly. We should focus on ourselves rather than focus on the opposition. Really, I don't believe in that for 1 minute. We've got a good a squad, like as we've said in previous podcasts. We've got as good a squad as we've had for many, many years. We should be focusing on our squad rather than playing mind games with the opposition. Really.
Yeah. You mentioned there as well that I think most fans will probably agree this is arguably the strongest squad we've had in a decade, and yet we seem to have come up short in big games, and we're still feeling our way into the season, even though there's some big games coming up. I think that's apparent to everyone. The thing that I want to make a point of was the fact that a lot was made about continuity in a squad. You've had across the entire league, we did our preview show, across the entire league, I think the average amount of signings was about 11 new faces in, about 12 out, and it was said that our settled squad should hit the ground running from the beginning of the season. Exactly, but we still seem to be trying to do we know, I would ask the question, do we know our best 17?
No, and we don't. And going back to the dual reg thing, we've got a squad of 31 players, and we still want to be calling players from Castleford. I don't agree with that at all. If you've got a 31-man squad and you're calling people in from dual reg, surely that just speaks volumes about the recruitment that we've done. And it should be. We've got a reserve grade which Eliza Colcott, who has come through and done really, really well. Get him in the first team and show that pathway is there for him to play really well in the first 2-3 games and then get dropped and then get potentially replaced by a dual reg player is bound to hit morale and confidence.
Yeah, I do agree there. I think there is an issue to be said for. I think Rich believes in. I don't want to speak for the man, but I do believe from what I've seen that he's a bit sort of wary about exposing young players to too much too soon, especially in the front row. If you're going to be a front rower in our division for for a decade or two. The last thing you need is a bad injury while you're still developing.
I completely agree with that, but it's not as if he's been found out in these times as Carl.
Oh, absolutely.
He's stood up well. He's stood up well, and being one of our better performers, really. It's not as if he's been thrown like against Lee a couple of years ago in the middle eights, where he did look like a boy. He was men against boys.
Oh, that was his
debut. Yeah, and I completely understand in that respect. 2 years on from now, his body's gone different. He's got a lot stronger. He's filled out. He looks a championship player. And to replace him with Will Maher, who I don't want to knock him because he did a really good job for us last year, but he's not an Halifax player, and he's not all that much better than him. We're not having we're not having Adrian Morley coming to play us for us.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me as well was that it was pretty obvious that Maher was recovering from a long-term injury that he sustained in the first week of pre-season, and it was the old thing that they say about dual reg of these players coming in to get a bit of fitness at the detriment of our own players.
Yeah, and we've got lads who are chomping at the bit, who are playing, who have played league games, who have played reserve games, who are ready to go. It's just, so I could go this all night.
Yeah, it's it doesn't send the right message. I do agree with that. Well, that was York in a nutshell. I mean, it was a pretty all-round disappointing day from start to finish, really. But we expected a bit of a response, and in the next game, I believe we got that. The Wolfpack came to town. The party was set out, the fan zone, and the promotion of the game was fantastic. And obviously, the Sky Sports cameras were there to witness it. And we started really well. The game itself, the pitch looked a bit better than it did in the previous home game, which was
much better.
Probably went against us a bit. If we'd have had that sort of pitch against, we've seen how Toronto have gone up to Barrow in previous years, and Dewsbury when the pitches have been a bit mushy, maybe might be the word.
Is that technical term?
I'm not too sure. I'm not a groundsman, but and teams like that have caught them cold when it's had to be a sort of not an expansive game. You can't get away with chucking the ball around. I think if there's one thing that we saw from Sunday's game is that Toronto can throw the ball around really well. But I just want to make the first point we've got to make is we wanted a response from York for the first 25 minutes. We definitely got that, didn't we?
The first 20 minutes was possibly the best we've played all year, probably apart from that period against Lee where we won the game. Really, we put them under loads of pressure. There were very, very little mistakes. Defence looks sound. We took points when they were offered to him in the first penalty, and then the second and third penalties to make it 6-0 after 20 minutes. I just don't believe were the right decisions, really. I said it at the game. I watched the game back, and I still believe it then. I can understand why they're going to go for it, because they want to just keep their
well, the amount of times in games where we've had a load of pressure on someone's line and then we've maybe knocked on or intercepted and come away with nothing.
And it's a very, very old-fashioned view of you don't leave their quarter without points, really. And teams have been stung, and I think we were as well. I think if you asked anyone, as a kind of caveat to that, no one really expected to beat Toronto. We had a chance, but if you had to ask any Halifax fan, hand on heart, they wouldn't expect to beat Toronto. If we had any chance of beating Toronto, it was to throw the ball around and have a go.
I think Toulouse showed that, didn't they? The fact that keeping the ball. We know that they're a big physical
full-time side who have got NRL and Super League players
and multi-million pound budget,
of course, and we needed to have a go against them. First 15 minutes we were 2-0 after the first penalty shot goal, absolutely fine. I can't complain about that. We're not getting nilled. We're slowly turning the screw. After that, we should have been camped in their half. That's where you build the pressure. Let Scott Morrell do what he does best, organise and kick through. Let Jono have a go and that sort of thing. But I think it was an opportunity missed, and then we all know what happened afterwards, really.
Well, I think, as I said earlier in the show, what the hell's happened to our defence? I think for the first 20 minutes, we were starting to see a return of that confidence in defence that we seem to have had for the last few seasons. Their points of attack were spot on, and we managed to get down and shut down their key playmakers.
Exactly,
but I don't think we're giving enough credit to Toronto. I think that they saw what our game plan. They figured our game plan out and made adjustments, and then once the floodgates opened, so to speak, to use a a phrase like that. It was one-way traffic after that, wasn't it?
They gained so much confidence because you think about us being kind of steady into the game. Let's take our points when we can get them. What message it's sending to them? Every single time when you get in their half, we're going to go for goal. We're not going to test their defence. So
well, I'm sure I heard someone say that John Wilkin mentioned somewhere that they got a bit bullish after that because they're thinking, look, they're throwing everything at us and they still can't get through us.
I think what Wilkins said, they're showing us a lot of respect here.
Yeah.
And we didn't need to that. We're not going to beat Toronto by giving them that sort of respect. But again, let's not discredit them too much. They're a fantastic side. Yeah. John Wilkin played in a dinner suit. I don't think he even got tackled with the ball. And when you've got the runners are like Russell and local lad Nick Rawsthorne coming back, it was a very, very good performance. And no lack of effort or desire there. We were just beaten by a much better team.
I think we need to draw a line in the sand after that. Like I think it was said a few times down at the ground on Sunday. We're not going to play a team of that quality every week.
No, we're not. No.
So we cannot use that as a yardstick for where we need to be every week. But if we can match a team like that for a big period of the game like we did, why can we then not replicate that every week? I think is the question most people will be
exactly
asking.
And it's been the perennial problem with Halifax. We raise our game against the big boys and we get unstuck by the with the greatest deal of respect, the lesser teams who we are expected to beat really. But as I say, it could be a learning experience. And again, Sunday night meltdowns, me included. I was shocking on Sunday night because I wanted Halifax to win it, and I know how good we can be when we chuck the ball around and stuff. Yes, we're bereft of confidence, but that was the chance to actually have a go in front of the Sky cameras, in front of a 2,000 plus crowd.
Well, I was going to come on to that. I mean, the game might have had its negative ending, but I want to try and put a positive spin. We're always trying to put a positive spin on this show. We
being an Halifax fan, you've got to be
you can't just be doom and gloom. Hey, we've had some good days over the years. You've got to take the rough with this move, But coming back to the promotion of the game with the Fax One led campaign through the club's social media. The pub was packed pre-game and there was a real buzz around the place, and we managed to speak to some Wolfpack fans who were apparently Leeds Rhinos fans converted, which make of that what you will. But yeah, again, the fan zone, and it just showed what can be done with a little bit of initiative and a little bit of work going in. Would you like to see that replicated at other home games?
For sure, yeah. Obviously, budgets dictate and availability dictate, but just something to make the game an event really. Because I went down to the ground a lot earlier than I usually do, and it was great. It was great to see a lot more people in there like normal. The community clubs that were there, it was great to see all 5, 6. Is it 6 community clubs?
Well, I'm under the impression we've got 9.
9 is it now? I know Queensbury have just joined, which is fantastic news. But also the fact that there were all the clubs representative of Halifax RLFC were there as well, and that was great to see. And as I say, hopefully, like as Dave Grayson said online on social media, that it could be very much a blueprint to see how we go and how we go forward from there. Great to see it against Toronto with the buzz that they bring, but we need to see it against the likes of Rochdale and Batley at home and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I want to draw shine some light on one of the best things I've seen throughout the week. It was, in my opinion, an absolute masterstroke was the Jamie Gray's junior Fax takeover.
Oh yes, brilliant.
That is some of the best marketing in any sport across the world that I've ever seen. For those that may not be aware of what it was, they had a competition for a young Fax fan to come down and spend the day at the Shea and do, like I say, a junior takeover. And she arrived listening to Twist and Shout. It was, for those that don't know, it was the old post office landlord and sponsor of the club, Tony Beege's daughter. Is it Emily? I believe.
So, yeah.
And she did a fantastic job. She announced the team live on Facebook, and she went round and met Richard Marshall while he was doing his fitness challenge at Snap. See, this is the thing as well. We had a campaign and they planned it through, and everyone mucked in and did their bit, and it was a real success. But that was the highlight of the whole week for me. What about yourself?
I completely agree. That as part of a really good marketing campaign, but it brought home what can be done if if the club kind of opens its doors and becomes more accessible, really.
Yeah.
We've said it for years that there's been a bit of a discord between both fans and sponsors and the club, and how great it was to see all the Morel and Kavanagh go around the town to all the different sponsors, with Malcolm Powell, Richard Marshall going to Snap Fitness, Linda Kitson and David Durbin from the Supporters Trust going to Nestle to get their own quality street made, and then going over to Hopwood Hall to meet the Toronto players. It's very, very encouraging. The challenge now is to keep that momentum going. Again, we've talked about momentum quite a lot so far this podcast. Keep that momentum going to get people who might have come for the first time, or the first time ever, or first time in a few years against Toronto. Yes, the product on the pitch wasn't necessarily good.
Well, it always seems to be the case, doesn't it? We always seem to be able to put these campaigns together, and I don't know whether it's extra pressure. I seem to remember a game against Featherstone at the Shea a few years ago, which was sort of tabled the £250,000 game. And they had a week-long promotion, and it was great, and we all went to the ground buzzing, and then the same thing happened. We were 4 scores down in 20 minutes and the game's over. And it just kills any... Our success has always come when the fans have been on side for the full 80 minutes.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I mean, it was hard to stay. And credit to the fans that were there; they made some real noise. But when it gets on top of you, I don't blame anyone for sort of going into the show.
Maybe hopefully the rugby that Toronto played inspired people to come back to see if that can be replicated by Halifax going forward, possibly.
Well,
you don't know, but that is the challenge again, to make all those kids from the community clubs, all the new people who are going to see what this Toronto thing's all about, and what Halifax is about after a few years. Hopefully they do come back and against the likes of Barrow at home or Dewsbury. We've got some big games coming up in a few weeks. We've got the Derby on Good Friday, which we're going to talk about in future shows because we've got a few games before then. That takes care of what happened off the field. Coming back to the on the field, I'm led to believe that after the full-time whistle on Sunday, that the players had a meeting in the change rooms, and that everyone that wasn't a part of the playing squad was asked to leave, and they had a real heart-to-heart talk. So again, we'll see. It's a shame. Away from Marshall as well. And
Marshall and the 17/19 man squad. Right. But sort of like laying down the law. I think, like I've said, we need to draw a line in the sand now. We need to say, look, we have to go forward now, because
of course,
it's for me, it's a shame that we don't have another league game this week to sort of get some momentum going, because we could do with getting back on the horse, so to speak.
But I think a cup game against Hunslet, who, again, really admire Hunslet as a club and respect them massively, but they are a lesser side. We should be beating them in the cup. It might be a good way to kind of just blow out the cobwebs and get the confidence back. Hopefully the weather stays away and we can have a good old Fax of old and with the dry tracks and throw the ball about a little bit.
Well, you mentioned the dry tracks. We had a dry track at York, and
we did. That was perfect. Yeah, and again, it goes back to my point of the likes of QLT. Surely he should have played, really, but we don't know.
Hindsight's 2020.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, we've got to respect Marshall's choices.
Absolutely, he's paid to do the job.
Exactly, he sees him all week in training, and that's ultimately his job to do, and he lives and dies by his sword, doesn't he?
Do you think he's under pressure?
I think for the first time, I think there's for the first time since he came in, actual genuine discontent about some of his tactics, some of his team selections. I was, for the first time, quite critical of him on Sunday. However, I've mellowed. After watching the game back on a sober / hungover head, I thought, I just thought Toronto were really, really good. But we had chance to win the game. But again, it goes back to the players on the pitch might have made decisions as well. There were one particular where, as soon as referee or the penalty, Morel just put two fingers up.
I'm led to believe that the call came from the sideline anyway.
Well, the call must have come before the referee blew for it.
I think Morel puts his fingers up, said, "Are we going to? Are we going to?" Because obviously the game plan set out before. If we'd already gone for two twice anyway, why not go for it a third time? I think.
As I say, we don't know conditions on the field, but I genuinely thought, and again looking back, Toronto were rattled. Adam Sidlow was getting stuck into, were threatening out wide with little mini breaks, and if Will Sharp had have looked on his left hand side rather than going right, and so it's tiny little things. I don't want to make excuses and stuff like that, because Toronto deserved to win and they always were going to win. It's just I'm a bit frustrated that, as I said before, I know how good Halifax can be with the players that we've got, and we didn't give a good account of ourselves really.
Well, you look at as well the fact that the first time that we threw the ball wise, albeit for a fumble, we'd have scored just before half time.
And again, we never know what the second half might have thrown. If we'd have gone in 20 points to 12 up,
we'd have been a bit more buoyant and bouncing. But anyway, we'll leave Toronto for now. Like I say, we won't play a team that good again. And
maybe that's the confidence that we need. And again, you used to say about lying under the sand. We know that we're not going to play a team that good again. Possible exception of Toulouse, really, but again, Toulouse are so unpredictable. It depends which one of them turn up, really. So
yeah, it's a tough place to play over in France, and we've been there and seen the solitary win in recent times, which is going down in our legend now. But that's a story for another day. We'll come back to Hunslet then. Challenge Cup this Sunday. I've made my thoughts clear on the Challenge Cup. Personally, I think we should get out of it as quickly as we can and focus on the 1895. We have a real chance of going to Wembley and building a following off the back of it. But you know, it's Rugby League's oldest competition. The players like to play in it. How do you see the game go? The first question, I suppose, is: do we play a so-called reserve squad, or do we go out there and play the first team to try and build some form?
Yeah, definitely. You play your best side, especially with the kind of, I don't know if rut's too harsh really, but we're in a bit of a sticky period at the moment. We need to get players playing with some confidence really. I think it needs to bring in some fresh faces to freshen it up. I think the likes of Woodburn Hall and Colcott should definitly come back.
I'd like to see Curtis Davis get a game as well.
Yes, definitely. As I say, I think he'd be, but all them three would be great additions. If only for the message of you need to play real hard to keep your place.
Yeah.
And as I say, obviously, if Grix and Jono are carrying knocks like Marshall did say in his press conference, then take him out of the squad. Don't bother with
it. I was just gonna say then as well that it's a good time to rest anyone that is carrying a niggle and sort of freshen up the squad. Yeah, myself, I'm of the ilk that I think that you play the best available squad. You still need to give the lads that haven't played for a few weeks a chance.
Of course, yeah.
Because if not now, when?
True.
There is a reserves game this Thursday away at Hull FC. In the afternoon, details of that, I'm sure if you check on the club's website and social media, they'll
I believe it's at Hull Ionians at 7:30. So I've saved it for my radio.
So there we go. If we're wrong, then blame Mike.
Blame me. But again, going back to your question, I know your thoughts about the Challenge Cup and that it might kind of derail our league season. I think we should give the respect it deserves. It is our cup competition, and if the draw is kind to us, we might have a shot. We might have a shot at going to it. We never know. And plus, again, momentum is a great thing, and we've gone through stages of building momentum, getting wins when they're on there, and again, we might get a big away day payday at the likes of Leeds.
Well, that's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah,
really.
And plus, we're coming on to it later on in the podcast, but if we play Leeds away at the moment, next round, they're for the taking, really. So
absolutely. You mentioned as well about Ben Johnston and Grixie carrying knocks, playing injured necessarily. Ben Johnston put out a tweet after the game yesterday saying, well, he's in for another operation tomorrow. His fingers buggered, gutted. Rugby League wins again. So it looks like Jono might be missing for a few weeks now. That is a big blow, if you ask me.
Very big blow, yeah. But again, it provides opportunities for other people to come in. I think James Woodburn, me and you have been to both reserve games. He's been absolute class in both of them. Ben White might have a point to prove as well. You don't know. Depends kind of what tactics Marshall's going to use there, really. So,
well, I'd love to see as well. I mean, you mentioned the two reserve games that we've been to so far this year. I think with a bit more time and let it blossom, as long as we can keep hold of them, that is, I think the combination of the two double barrel surnames, James Woodburn and Reece Chapman Smith, out the back seems to work, and I think the more that's sort of nourished, we'll start to bear some real fruit. And obviously, there's a few Fax legends. Sadly, Richard Moore had to retire due to
it's a shame.
To his head knocks. So it's a shame we won't see him, but we do get to see a recently departed Fax legend in Ben Heaton. It'd be good to see him getting back out there again, won't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I'm led to believe that there's going to be no dual reg players playing for us. And I think we haven't made use of the dual reg. I think Harry Kidd's gone to Hunslet, and Calcott's gone to Hunslet as well. But yeah, it's good to see Ben Heaton again. And I say I do respect Hunslet a lot as a club. They've gone through the mire a little bit. They're owned by the supporters. Yeah. It's a really, really good setup.
They're fantastic supporters. I mean, I think we went to the Summer Bash the other year and they were getting heavily beaten, but they were the loudest in the stadium. Fantastic fans. I've got a lot of time for Hunslet. So yeah, it'd be good to see Ben Heaton. He's still part of the Fax folklore for getting out of that ambulance at Bradford like the second coming of Christ. So be good to see him out there again, won't it? Another player that's not necessarily playing. You mentioned about we've had some lads go out on dual reg. A lad that I would say is ready for Championship rugby. So it's I'm sort of mixed on it, but it's good to see him actually get a game. Conor McGrath gone to York on a month's loan. Got a good try on Sunday against Sheffield by all accounts. Now, for me, it's a strange one because I put this out on our Twitter page and got a few comments that disagreed with me. I think he should have been given a chance in our team. Everyone's saying, well, where's he going to play? Does he play here? You can't play here, there. Well, why not? We haven't been setting the world alight with our attack. Why not put in a lad that's, I mean, arguably scored one of the greatest tries I've ever seen at the Shea? Why not give the lad a chance in our team? Again, it's all about the message it sends. He comes to our system. He plays in the reserves. He gets in the first team. He has a bit of a good run in the reserve team. We signed another winger, and I'm not saying that he's going to get in over Robinson or Sharp, but I would like to see a few people moved around or maybe given a rest. The call for Sharp at a fullback seems to have been louder than ever this week. Yeah. Even though I thought Q was okay. I just think I agree. You know, he didn't have anyone running off the back of him really. But I'll tell you what, we were talking about. I know we were going to leave Toronto, but we seem to have seen some players getting a lot of, in my opinion, unwarranted stick. Yeah, they might have had a dip in form, like you say. It might be a little bit of it's a bad word to use, but a rut. I don't like to see players getting bags for one-off performance. In particular, I'm talking about Fleming and Kavanagh. Now, if you remember when we signed Fleming last year, he had one or two really good games. Took some time to get used to the way that part-time rugby was going to treat him again after having been at Toronto, and then towards the back end of the season, class always shines through. You know, class is permanent, form's temporary. Same with Ben Kavanagh. Ben Kavanagh's had a good game at Widnes for me. Scored that great try. Might have dipped off a little bit now. I don't think he understands again what it's like to be back in that part-time environment, and how you make that work for you on a Sunday and keep your morale up. So I'd like to think that in the end, both will come good. What did you make of their performances? And do you think that they should be put in this week, or should someone like Calcott be given a chance instead?
I don't think they necessarily are poor games, really. Every player don't have great games every week. You're not going to get 10 out of 10 every week from players. Going back to Richard Moore, retirement notice, I heard his interview on Radio Leeds about his career and stuff, and he said it himself that one of his biggest challenges was getting used to part-time rugby, going from full-time rugby. Now, Fleming and Kavanagh have gone from that again, really, and they've come up on Sunday against the best full-time team outside of Super League, really. And you got the likes of Lussick and Gadwin Springer and Sidlow, who were very, very cultured at that level. And they got bullied a little bit, but the pedigree's there. Kavanagh's played in 2 World Cups. Fleming's Welsh international,
Welsh Player of the Year.
Exactly, yeah, he was outstanding in that international series. I think they play again. I think there's other players who make way for likes of Calcott. Myself, I think Leroy needs a rest. I don't think he's fit. I think he's carrying injury, or I think he just needs time out. Really,
I think it's part of his character as well. That like we're seeing with Grixie and Jono, that they want to play, they want to help the boys. They don't want to be seen to be a burden sitting on the sidelines. But I think sometimes you have to save players from themselves in that situation, and that's where the man management side of it comes in.
Definitely. You're going about going back to the Conor McGrath part. And it's a very, very strange situation. Is that having a team as high flying as York going to we are the lesser side at the moment, to pick out a player who can't get in our side to put him straight in. Very, very strange. But that's what a squad is like, and we have got squads there, and we've got a trust in Marshall's shape and philosophy there, really. I wouldn't have McGrath, as much as I love Conor McGrath as a player, I wouldn't have him above Robinson and Sharp at the moment, and I agree with the way it's going at the moment. I would have Sharp on the wing and QLT or Chapman Smith at fullback.
Yeah.
I don't think long term, Sharp did a job for us in 2017 at fullback, and he did, and he was ably assisted by other players in terms of the attacking shape and stuff like that. I think QLT gives us something different there, but hopefully he goes out there for a month, we get him back, and Marshall may well be in the position to say, do you know what, let's put him in.
I'd like to see him at centre. He's played some games at centre for the reserves, and he's got the hands to get his winger away, as we've seen a few times,
and he's got a lot stronger as well in the last couple of years too, so
so I'd like to see these lads that we've invested. So the last thing we want is for a lad that's come through our system and spent all this time, we've spent all this money on his development, walking away and joining York permanently because we haven't got a place in this squad. No. That just comes down to I wanted to bring this point up anyway. I was going to wait a little bit, but I want to ask you now. I mentioned in episode number 1, our debut episode back in I believe it was about October time when the squad was finally announced. That Marshall has a track record for galvanising and really bringing together a small squad and supplemented it with a few loan signings here and there. Not too many dual reg over the years. We had Robinson the first year from KR and Jordan Cox, and then obviously we only had a few sprinkled from Cass, apart from obviously when we had a few in from Salford as well. But it's just a case of I want to see the fact that he can manage a big squad. In 2016, when we went out and we signed some players and we kept the majority of our squad, we had a big squad. We failed to make the 4. So is it a case of, I asked the question, can Marshall manage a large squad? Can he keep everyone happy for long enough? With the comments that have been made that he obviously has some favourite players. What do you think of that?
I don't envy his job, to put it that way, because we've seen reserve games, we've seen the players that have been left out play before, and they believe they should be in the 17. But that's sports sometimes. Yeah. And again, maybe these short-term loans might be the way to actually get them knocking on the door. And again, making sure that the players that are in the team at the moment work their damnedest to keep the shirt, really. And again, I think what's frustrating fans is that you've got players on the field who whether it's their fault or not, aren't coming up with the performances to keep all that shirt when there's other players to come in. Like, for instance, you mentioned putting McGrath back at centre when he comes back from York. Do you drop Tyra? Do you drop Butler when he comes free? Do you drop Saltonstall? Barber did fantastically as a wide running second row, and there's quite a lot of people, and to be honest, me included, the way he played on Sunday, that would have him at centre, because his distribution's brilliant. He holds the play up really well. If you're a winger outside Ed Barber, I'd love it.
I think that is his position, mate. I think if he's going to nail down, it's that old thing, innit? We've got an embarrassment of riches.
Exactly.
So it's obviously this is why he gets paid the big bucks to make these. And
decisions. I would rather have it that way than having a very thin bare squad and injuries coming and then having no one to replace them. I would rather have it that way. And so we have been lucky in injuries in terms of the last few years, because if some of our main strike players had got injured, we'd have been screwed, really. Yeah. And we know that if players do get injured, we have got players, maybe not necessarily at 100% of their level, but at least 90% of their level. So
I think what gets up people's noses, and has been said quite a lot on the terraces so far, is that we keep being told that there's people ready to come in. If people aren't playing well, they don't play well, they don't get replaced. Exactly, so you've got to practice what you preach. For the, it might make us a worse side. I mean, I'm not bagging a single one of those first team players. It's not as if they're going out there with the purpose of losing. No player goes out with
and
the
effort and desire are there as well.
But you have to have, if you're going to have this philosophy of promoting up, I think you have to practice what you preach.
Of course you do.
I mean, you look at, I think there's one player's name that comes up again and again, and he was unfortunate to get injured, which probably set him back a little bit. But the one player that we saw in pre-season and we were saying over and over again, the lad is ready, chuck him in, we need him. Sean Jones. Where is Sean Jones?
Yeah, definitely. And he's one who would be probably playing if he was fit there, really. Marshall does bang the drum about the reserves, and we've got such good reserves and stuff like that, and we'll learn from our mistakes. but we're not learning by replacing people and form, having reserve games and having people who are a level above, taking them off at half time to rest them and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Not playing them in first team. I think it's a little bit wrong. But again, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, what goes on training and stuff like that, and we've got to put our trust in him really, because he is very much in credit in terms of what's gone on.
Well, this is the point I wanted to make before. He is absolutely in credit, but how long does that credit last?
True, but we've got to give him the chance to do it.
Do you give him a season? Do you give him... Because obviously there are some people out there calling for his head, but it was the same last year when we got beat by Oldham.
Exactly.
So.
You just stole on the point that I made.
Oh, I'm always doing that.
In every single year that Marshall's been in charge, there's always been a little dip setback around about this time, about quarter to third of the way through season, where fans are getting frustrated, the team drops a little bit, but look what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
We storm home with a wet sail, and we've definitely got the squad to do it this year. The only difference is the rest of the league is so much stronger.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anything against the reserves. I truly believe that, because obviously, as we all know, with the funding that's been taken away from the Championship to put into Super League, that we are going to rely heavily on our reserves, and we need to keep hold of them. I tell you what, one thing we haven't mentioned about the reserves, we went to the game at Keighley, is we have a viral video on our hands from that game, don't we? For those that haven't seen Jacob Smiley's try, where he catches the ball in his own in-goal area, goes on the outside.
He doesn't. He catches it in the field of play. Looks like he does. It defused the bomb, because quite a lot of people said, "Oh, sure, that should be a 20-metre tap," but it wasn't.
Fair enough. So the thing for me, he goes on the outside, which at the time, if you remember me and you were stood next to him, I was going absolutely spare and said, if you did that in a first team game and they push you in touch, your coach will be having your guts for garters, I'm telling you. But then the lad showed freakish pace and balance and skill to go the length of the field and score arguably one of the better tries you'll see at that level, didn't he?
Yeah, of course, yeah. And we said at the time, it looks like a young Martin of Fire.
Well,
and what do you know? He tweeted saying...
You're taking my points now, mate. You're taking my points. Retaliation.
But he was at the game on Sunday in the fan zone. I said to him, saying, and the amount of people that were coming over to him and saying, you're close at first team, you keep doing what you're doing. And again, we've mentioned on previous podcasts the likes of your Curtis twins, your Curtis and Connor twins, Davis
Curtis
twins,
and Connor twins,
the Fleming and people like that being internationals, Sean Jones as well, saying they should be knocking on the door at first team. Jacob Smiley now, he's viral superstar. He's got a London stride. He's the Jamaican international.
Yep.
He's looking every inch the player now. And again, as you mentioned, we've got to practice what we preach and put these reserves in, because we could lose them to other clubs.
Absolutely.
I am sure that, quite rightly, the tri's getting the recognition it deserves, but it's opening eyes to outside influences. We should have not filmed the game, and it was a great idea, was it, to share that tweet?
What can we do? Anyway, just like what happened with Nick Rawstorn, we put him out there, and he had a fantastic. You'd think we always like to think that we make mistakes, but you learn from them. So the next time you don't. Which is another reason, again, going back to the Toronto game, is why I think we went for 2, because in previous season in those big games we've maybe run it and maybe come up with an error and come away with nothing. So we need to be looking at this. And like you said, there's a lot more eyes on the lad now than would have been otherwise. So we need to be on top of this. I'm sure the club are. I would like to think that they can identify talent and not have another Nick Rawstorn on our hands. True. Moving on then from the men's squad, we're going to start talking about the women's squad, who have their first ever game this Sunday in a friendly, the 31st of March against the Leeds Rhinos under 19s. Obviously, you've had a couple of the players on the radio show talking facts on Phoenix FM. I'm going to have another one this evening. I don't know when you're listening, but every Tuesday Mike does a radio show on Phoenix FM, and this evening's... Well, do you want to tell us who this evening's guest is?
Yeah, it's Sarah from the team. I spoke to her on again at the fan zone on Sarah Kennedy at the fan zone on Sunday, and basically said, "Oh, do you want to come on the show? Do you want to tell us all about what's going on and that sort of thing?" And she said, "Yeah, great stuff." And it'd be really interesting to see kind of how things are going, really, because as I've mentioned on the show, that they've had open trials and they've had training sessions and stuff, and how it feels to actually how it feels to actually pull on a Halifax shirt, because they were all there in the tracksuits and the polo shirts, looking really, really good as a team, really. And yeah, just because we've said on previous podcasts that it might be a bit too soon to create a women's team, but little do we know there was stuff going on in the background.
Well,
really.
it's the fastest growing part of the sport at the minute. In fact, it's probably the fastest growing area of any sport at the minute is women's sport. There's a big emphasis on it. They've got their first league game on the 7th of April. Against the Whitley Bay Barbarians. Check the club's official website, Facebook, Twitter pages for details of that. I'm sure they'll be banging the drum in the lead up to that game. But it's going to be fantastic to see them out there, really. Like I say, it's been a long time coming. I know people have been a big advocate for it. We were maybe convinced that it was a bit too soon financially, but it looks like they've ironed out all the bugs there, and the team's ready to go, really. I'm looking forward to seeing them play. It'd be great to... From what I understand, they're trying to get the kick-off so they don't... I think they play at Brighouse Sports Club.
Yes, they do,
and then, so I think if the plan... Obviously, going forward, we'd like to see them playing before the first team on a Sunday at the ground.
Yeah, I do. But I've spoken to people in the know, and they are hoping that we play, I think it is Barrow at home, the game before the Shea pitch is relayed, and they're hoping to get the women's as a curtain raiser for a double header for that. So
that'll be fantastic. But I mean, even if the games kick off at lunchtime on a Sunday, the fact that you might be able to get down to Brighouse and watch the women's team, and then get up and watch the men's at the Shea. So it'd be a fantastic all round day of rugby league. So if you're out there on your computers and things now, check them out. Do a bit of research and get yourself down, because it's a part of our club that we need to really support. I just wanted to make a mention as well, an honorary mention for the wheelchair team. Got their season off to
fantastic.
a flyer, and hopefully they'll be gracing in grand finals. I think they want to renew that rivalry with Leeds Rhinos. So up the facts for them. Keep going, boys. We'll be down to see you soon. Hopefully we'll try and get if anyone's listening out there from the wheelchair team, we'd love to have a member on, and same with the women's team. If anyone would like to come on and give your thoughts on the game of rugby league, we'd welcome you with open arms. Well, that does it for facts for now. We're going to move on to some general rugby league chit chat. There's been a few big stories this week, but I think we'll start with the England squad. Is it the Elite Performance, I think they call it?
Yeah, Elite Performance Group, and also the England Knights have been announced as well.
Two Fax lads, from what I've seen in the England Knights team.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not too sure who they are.
It's Adam O'Brien from Huddersfield, King Cross Junior, and then Cruz Leeming, who's also at Huddersfield. I believe he was Siddle.
Yes, was, yeah. Or Sid Hall, as Barry McDermott keeps saying, which is just completely wrong. But yeah, it's great to see local lads doing really well there. And
we'll move on to the full England team. I mean, I was a bit surprised when they announced it this year. I know they've done it because we've had a few sort of mid-season tests and whatnot in recent years, but the fact that Great Britain's returned and they're doing that, you know, I wasn't expecting it, but at the same time, like you mentioned before we came on the air, it's good to get them together and socialising, if anything, and chucking a ball around and just getting a bit familiar with each other, you know?
Yeah, one of the strengths of the World Cup year was that the unit was really, really strong. The players all kind of knew each other on and off the pitch as well, because it's all fair and well kind of coming together. Good players will be able to play with good players. There's all that sort of stuff there. But if you know them off the pitch, that's even better, really. And to get the more times that they get together as a group, is all the better, really, to be honest.
Absolutely. I wanted to make a point of a noticeable absentee, which as soon as I saw that his name wasn't in there, I was stunned, because having seen the lad play in an England shirt in the flesh, he was the best player on the field that day. He's arguably been the best prop in the league this year. Mike Cooper, how the heck? I mean, I don't understand how he hasn't made that squad. What do you think to that?
No, yeah, I completely agree. I think he's gone under the radar a little bit, even though he went to the RL and did really well there. I think he's been underappreciated by the fans, really, and obviously by the coaching staff, really. He genuinely has been the best prop in Super League this year. He offers a little bit more than the likes of Alex Walmsley, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
But there's certain players, I'll name one, Stevie Ward, who is perennially injured, and I just don't see why he's still in the squad, where Cooper can fill different roles. He's not just a prop, he can fill in a second role, loose forward, depending on what the tactics are there, really.
It's a strange one. I mean, to me, it springs of that maybe Wayne isn't actually watching the games in England. He's getting the message passed across, and I'm just stunned that he hasn't made that squad. Especially, like I say, it's maybe he asked not to be included. We never know what goes on behind the scenes, but if you're picking an England squad, he's in it every time for me. So
no, of course, yeah. Also, shout out to Niall Levels, who's on the England night squad as well.
Niall Levels, another
Local
Fax lad,
yeah.
Salford, and obviously Siddle Junior there. So that's fantastic to see that the Fax are being repped at international level, albeit sadly not in a Fax shirt. So.
No, but the Gareth Widdop is coming home technically to England anyway. So hopefully it's a short stop at Warrington before he sees himself in a blue and white of Halifax.
So next year or the year after, you've got to sign in Gareth Widdop, Sonny Bill Williams. Who else are we signing? Sam Burgess.
Just them two.
Just them two.
Yeah.
We'll just do with them two, and then we'll have me and you getting a game because we won't be able to afford anyone else. But
no, anyway. I'll be too busy on Sky.
Oh yeah, I forgot you're getting your job at Sky. Aren't you? So yeah, that's England. Speaking of England and Great Britain legends, there's been one that's been making headlines across the game this last couple of weeks, and probably between the two of them shining, the club itself and the man in question, probably not shining themselves in the greatest light. Sean Edwards, the debacle goes on. What do you know about this story?
Well, first of all, he is my favourite ever rugby league player.
Oh, he's
Sean
fantastic.
Edwards. I absolutely love him. But yeah, it's the unorthodox arrangement announced last summer by Wigan with that Adrian Lamb would coach 2019 season, then Sean Edwards, once he'd finished his duties with Wales Rugby Union, would come in and coach on a 3-year contract from then on in. After Wales won the Grand Slam, unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, in his press conference interview, Sean Edwards
You started talking rugby union now, everyone's switching.
He started using far too many if words for people's liking. The main one was saying that he's at the end, after the World Cup in Japan this year for the Rugby Union World Cup, he's going to be unemployed. Now, that set tongues a wagging, and it led to the worst press release in rugby league history.
Yeah.
Wigan were basically saying, we are trying to get dialogue with Sean to confirm this. We're trying to ring him and saying, please answer our calls, what's going on?
Well, from what I understand, they have a handshake and a verbal agreement, but they've said that they won't hold him to it if he decides that he wants to go take a rugby union job.
Maybe they're trying to keep him sweet for long term, really.
Maybe so.
But he just seems scandalous in this day and age where Sean Edwards has come out and said there was a contract laid out, but there wasn't a contract laid out. He asked about a contract, and then Lenigan goes, "Oh, we'll make one afterwards. We've got the agreement here." If you get Sean Edwards to want to be coach of your side, you get him signing him bloody free.
Well, it's a funny one, isn't it, as well? Because Wigan have always seemed to have gone for big names in rugby league. Obviously, they've had Sean Wayne for a long time, who came through the system, was Wigan through and through. But they're making all this fuss about a man who hasn't coached in rugby league before. Yeah, he's a rugby league legend, but the last time he was involved in the game is many, many years ago. So, I mean, I'm sure it'll roll on until someone comes out and gets a definitive answer. From what I understand, he's been offered a couple of rugby union roles already, and Wigan have said if he wants to take one, then so be it. So we'll keep an eye on that story, and I'm not saying we're breaking the news any more than anything that's already been said, but. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. That's an interesting one. Lastly, but not least, I've got 4 words here which probably sum up Super League for us so far this year. I don't watch much Super League myself these days since they decided that they want to dictate to the rest of the sport. But anyway, that's a story for another podcast. And the 4 words are London good, Leeds bad. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I think if we're going to expand on it, London doing much better than everyone expected, and Leeds just in free fall at the moment.
Yep.
Just don't know what's going on. Firstly, absolutely massive congratulations to Danny Ward and the settle down there. There were many, many eyebrows raised when he got named coach of the year in Championship. Our rather biased view was that Richard Marshall should have got it, but he is proving what a very, very astute coach he's got. And again, it shows what a good league the Championship is, because
absolutely.
One of the reasons why people were tipping us to have such a good start was because we kept the nucleus of the squad.
Yeah.
Danny Ward's gone up and kept pretty much the nucleus of that squad, and Samet aside, they've brought in Jordan Abdul, and again, very
got,
similar to Connor Robinson. He's been given a home.
They got the lad back from Warrington, the prop. I think it's Davis, I believe. They signed Davis.
But yeah, they've turned up. They've beaten Wakefield, Wigan, and then they've gone up to Headingley and beaten Leeds, which no one saw coming really, and they're doing really well.
Well, it goes to show there is something for keeping faith with the ones that got you there. You look at Lee, when Lee got promoted, they had a fantastic style of rugby, and as soon as they got promoted, they replaced all those, shipped them all off to Toronto, replaced them with people that were, I wouldn't say up to scratch, but that didn't have the same heart for the club and know the ethos of the club, and it backfired. So to see London doing as well as they are with, I mean, we know how quality they are. Every time we went down, that pitch is a hard place to play.
Oh, of course, yeah. They don't make it easy for you down there. But I've said many a times that London were the best side that we played in the Championship last year, even better than Toronto, really, because we ran Toronto pretty close. Apart from at home, where there were 4 seasons in one game, we were comprehensively beaten by London in both games, really. Even though we ran them close in that one just before the playoffs.
We should have beat them in the playoffs, really.
Yeah, but again, that's for another podcast. But absolutely. But Leeds. Again, you mentioned they've brought in a new coach. The end of an era with McDermott going, all the players retiring. They've got, again, someone who knows Leeds well. Dave Furner used to play for him, won the grand final with him, and they've signed 3 big names, big NRL names, who should realistically be setting the world alight. Conrad Hurrell's played very, very well so far, but Lola here just looks a complete shadow of himself.
Looks a shadow of himself. That's the perfect way of describing it. I think as well, a lot of people, the talk I've been getting is Leeds won't go down, they're way too good to go down. Well, they said that about Bradford, and look at the predicament Bradford are in. It's a strange one. To be honest with you, the best thing that could happen to Leeds is to go down. They might get a bit of perspective on what the Rugby League's all about. If see Everton having to go to Batley on a Saturday and travel to Barrow and wherever, Swinton and our place, it might give them some perspective on the game is not just all Super League, and there are players and fans that care about the game outside.
No, and they have found that out by being in qualifiers for a couple of years. 2 out of the 4 years they've been in the qualifiers.
Well, I don't think they have, because they haven't seen the writing on the wall and done anything about it. So
no, and Jamie Jones Buchanan was a guest at the Wakefield Warrington game, which again, outstanding game.
Fantastic.
Don't watch many Super League games, but there have been some fantastic.
Yeah,
games
that was the one I
League.
did catch.
And he was very, very upfront, basically saying that the team's been in transition for quite a few years, and they know what they need to do, but they're not doing it yet. And imagine a championship with Halifax, Bradford, Leeds.
Stuff of dreams, the absolute stuff of dreams. Well, we can but dream at the minute until it's made in ink in front of us, but I'll tell you what, that is a dream worth having. Mike, we're going to leave it there for now. Thanks very much, as always, for joining me.
Very well.
I want to say thank you to you guys for listening out there. Again, if anyone does want to make an appearance on the show, you can get in touch at the Fax of Life pod and the Fax of Life podcast at gmail.com. Give us a message. We'd love to hear from you. We'll see you at Hunslet on Sunday when we start our run to Wembley. We're going to win the Challenge Cup. Up the Fax. Come on, boys.